Greetings, fellow adventurers, and welcome to the Couple of Nerds podcast. I'm DnDWife, the creator of DnDWifeStories.com, and your co-host. Joining me is the man behind the screen, my brilliant dungeon master, and also my husband, Eguile. Say hi, Eguile.
Hey everyone, excited to be here sharing our nerdy adventures with all of you.
Absolutely. So what's Couple of Nerds all about? Well, we're diving into the realms of Extraeus, sharing our experiences, playing D&D in our apartment, and exploring the intricate tapestry of relationships both in and out of the game.
And we got some exciting segments for you all, from lore deep dives to crafting tips, artwork showcases, and relationship advice on and off the table. We've got a little bit of everything for every kind of adventurer.
So whether you're a seasoned adventurer or a tabletop newbie, we invite you to join us today. Tune in, relax, and enjoy the magic of Couple of Nerds. May your rolls be natural 20s and your adventures be legendary. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Couple of Nerds. I'm your host, DnDWife, and with me is my co-host and husband, Dungeon Master Eguile.
How's it going, everyone?
Welcome. Today is a Heard It From Us segment, and what is our topic?
Well, today we're diving into another hot topic from our community, the worst things a Dungeon Master can do at the table specifically. We kind of thought, there's a lot of things that DMs do, and now we're not taking this from the sense of like negative. We're not saying, the horror stories, the Reddits out there. This is more looking at the things that a DM can do to just really grind the gears of the players and really kind of push the table to that next level of interaction and suspense.
Yeah, to ramp up gameplay a little bit, so to speak.
So really the way we looked at it was it can kind of be broken down into two ways. First, obviously, the nonverbal aspect, and then also
the verbal aspect. When when you're talking, you're speaking, or you're setting the scene, anything that you say can be, interpreted a certain way. Same thing with nonverbals.
Oh yeah, and that's like, and it goes, I think, both ways. It goes between both the player and the DM, right? So a DM faces it kind of sometimes more in a negative way, whereas players could use it to kind of up their RP or their interactions with their fellow players.
Yep. And it's not just knowing, how they affect gameplay, but it's also how to use those elements effectively, which we're going to be giving tips for.
Oh, right. And so also don't forget to join our Discord, because this is where you can weigh in on our future topics and join us in on all these conversations that we have for You Heard It From Us.
Yep. We're constantly posting polls, so make sure to join up so that you can make your voice heard.
So really, and what is a big thing for me is always looking at the impact of nonverbal cues. I think this is really important for DMs in terms of not only as a tool, but also something to kind of be aware of and kind of worry about in terms of how you can express yourself. And when I say nonverbals, there's a lot that a DM can do that are both intentional and non-intentional. And one of the things is like rolling dice. I mean, just picking up some dice and throwing them on the table for no reason other than just rolling dice tends to kind of set an image, tends to get some attention.
Yeah, if you want to get the attention of everybody at the table, just roll some dice.
Yeah, and so you really can kind of spook your players, from just simply just making noises. But then there's the others too, with things like, kind of eyebrow raises, certain shoulder moves that, either your players can think that they're intentional, that you're trying to make your player more role play and they can kind of lean into it, when in reality it's like you as a DM in the back of your head going, oh no, don't go there, I haven't prepared yet, please don't. And they're going, oh, it's the barmaid trying to hide something, he's just really putting on his acting chops. And so you really got to kind of understand kind of that dynamic between like the positive nonverbals and then verbals that can get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah, right. It can be tough to try something, say you were just squinting or you were, checking your eyelid or something, and people think it's you winking at them, letting them know in on a secret or something. That's always a problem. And as a player, picking up on the DM's nonverbals can be kind of a double-edged sword too, because we can get pretty paranoid sometimes as to, why do you look at me? Is it something I did? Is it something I said? What's going to happen now? Yeah,
and so like as a DM, I do kind of sometimes try to use it to my advantage. I try to be cognizant of that. And my background and my schooling, I focus a lot on nonverbals, so I do know how to kind of mess with people in terms of facial features and micro expressions and all that fun stuff. But I find that kind of does make it, because in reality, especially on the DM side, you're one person who's being looked at by everyone. You kind of are the whiteboard that is the experience of D&D and the fantasy. So you really kind of have to know kind of what you're doing. So it's as simple as just, raising your eyebrow to a player's kind of cockamamie idea. So instead of having to say, hey, that's not a great idea, they already just kind of know that you're kind of going, I don't think so.
Right.
And so I think that really kind of gives you opportunities to coach and guide your players on your table without necessarily having to be like, no, that's wrong. Or no, hey, you didn't do this right. And you can just kind of let yourself as the DM, as part of your NPC, use your physical presence to help kind of sell your NPC's guilt or your deception, whatnot. And that way you can have that little extra panache to your characters. So that way your players get a more real experience. Because really, how hard is it to talk to a person when you can't see their actual face?
Right.
So you're that stand-in. So you have to kind of be aware of that.
You're the projection screen that the movie's playing on. So you've got to portray that. You've got to be the reflection of that.
But then there's tough times too, when you're not, you might get a text message and you're looking down, and because your players in mid conversation amongst themselves, and then one player happens to look over at you, sees the wrong reaction, and they're like, oh, I need to roll perception, something's about to go down. So there's times where you always got to be careful about it.
It's tough sometimes too, when, as a player at least, when we're looking at the DM, sometimes your slightest look or your slightest move can really push us towards a certain part of the story. So I think that's where I think your carefulness comes in, where you have to be very careful about what nonverbals you give us, because otherwise we might go down the other path towards the town that you have not built yet.
Yeah, there's been a few times that's happened, but it is something you learn as you go.
And then it also helps to build alliances too. Certain looks between players as well can help. A trusting look can really help. Or specifically with NPCs, with the DM, if you can give us like a really innocent, nice look, we can be more trusting of you.
Yeah, and there's times where also, and I think we see it in like other game, other kind of critical role games or other live games where, that's a lot of ways that you can try to kind of create the kind of secrecy amongst your players, when in reality, you're obviously talking about your players in your downtime. So it's hard to hide secrets. So then when you can be playing and you can now express and emote more to kind of hide your secrets, whether it's through costume work or just a particular way you hold your body, all those nonverbal gestures from DM or player alike really helps kind of bring you into the depth of the kind of the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just nonverbals that help drive the experience of D&D or any real tabletop game. It's words as well, how you speak, the words that you speak.
I mean, I think the easiest way to like surmise this, and especially within the D&D community, is like there are so many phrases out there that kind of key into us as a community. Like, are you sure? Like, that's a big one, right? Like a DM asks you, are you sure? It's pretty much your last chance to get out of doing something bad. But you also have other things where, like, certain phrases, like one that comes to mind that a lot of us know is, how do you want to do this?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Made by Critical Role. And it just shows kind of just like how the different words and phrases that have nothing to do with the story, that have nothing to do with necessarily the game either, really kind of bring you in. And when you start hearing those words, it's like a bell going off in your head of excitement.
Yeah, where phrases like, are you sure, can sow seeds of doubt in a player where it's like, oh, maybe I'm not making the right decision, as you're looking at the DM trying to see if he's like for one way or the other. And things like, how do you want to do this can really spur the imagination to open up and let the player kind of decide how they want everything to go from there, to decide an integral part of the story.
Yeah, and for me, it was always kind of like, it's also like a great way as a DM sometimes to kind of slow down the story too. The seeds of doubt amongst your players can be quite comical because, just being like, asking questions, they're like, okay, we're going to go into a battle. And you're just like, hey, what's your all's ACs again? Just to remind me. You have no intention of them getting into a fight. You don't want them to get into a fight.
Oh, yeah.
But by asking that, they kind of rethink of, oh, why is he asking us that? That must be important. Okay, we need to rethink. Okay, what's our, and now as a DM, you're like, okay, I got a half hour while they now kind of try to figure this out. Let me try to get a battle going and kind of give yourself that opportunity. And all you really did was ask a simple question.
So, 2 seconds can get you 30 minutes. That's not bad.
Right.
That's a good trade-off.
And it also goes into the opposite, as always. And I've had a lot of experiences with like red herrings of, especially when you get into something and you try, a lot of times what will happen to me as a DM is that, you've been playing for a few hours and you're kind of going, you kind of get this epiphany moment where you're like, hey, have I been like describing well enough? Like, have I been doing detail? Like, okay, oh crap, maybe I've been lazy. I've been kind of going with it. So the next room or next space you go, you're like, oh, right, you're in this, you describe everything and in your head, you're like, okay, I'm giving them the best description. I could sell this house. I could be a real estate agent, and their first thought was, okay, he went into detail. There's something here.
Why is he describing it so
There's something here, right? There's got to be something to find.
Yep.
He told us about every nook and cranny. That means every nook and cranny needs to be searched. When in my head as the DM, I'm literally just trying to give a better scene, and then I have to start worrying what's like, oh crud. And I'm trying to backpedal and trying to be like, oh yeah, and we end up getting 10, 15 rolls of investigations and arcanas and detections and trying to find, when in reality it was just me trying to be better at describing the scene.
We as players, I guess we don't really ever think about what the DM is thinking while they're running through a campaign or a session. So it's really tough for us not to make those assumptions of a DM, where it's like, well, everything's been fine up until now, and then all of a sudden it's really, really detailed. There must be something important here. So those kinds of questions can be really big arsenals in the DM's handbook.
I think the biggest one also for me is the, you can try. I think it's always the better answer than just straight no.
Yeah.
No kind of gives that kind of defeatist kind of end point.
It's
like,
final.
Hey, can I open that door? No. Okay, well then I'm never going to look at the door again.
I'm just going to walk away, I guess.
But by saying something as just, well, you can try. You're always giving the players kind of an opportunity, and also it's one of those things where depending on how you say it can also change. You can, someone gives you an idea and you're like, well, you can try. You might want to rethink that, or if someone comes up with a cool idea but you really want to let the dice make the decision, you're like, oh man, you can totally try it out on the next session, let's see what happens.
Let's find out.
And just that simple phrasing can also change a lot on how you play, and it really kind of makes it a lot smoother.
Well, just the way you said it was different, right? The first one sounds a lot more like, oh no, there's probably a bigger chance that things will go wrong on this one than the other one, which sounds a lot more positive.
Right. And so, really looking at each individual, I think that's really what it comes down to, is that there are a lot of DMs and a lot of players that will kind of be good at one before the other. They'll have either, they got the nonverbals. They're the ones that can just contort and do all the crazy things. They have the body language and everything like that. But they kind of slip up on their words, or they don't really know how to get into the dialect or whatever they want to be a part of their character. Or then you have the characters where their accent is so thick you can't understand them, but they kind of are all over the place. They're on their phone and they're mad about something, or they walk out, that you can't really read them. They could be, red in the face because of something going on, but they're telling you their character is happy and dancing. You're like, wait, but you look pissed.
You look upset.
So there's a lot that you can see with combining both and how you can do that. A well-timed sigh with a cryptic comment, that's going to let them just kind of sit and stew.
Oh yeah. We've had plenty of times where that's happened.
Right, because it's like that more real, because now it's like, okay, not only did I hear it, but I saw that something is up too. And it really kind of gives kind of a more confirmation, because when you do both and you're really working with both at the same time, that's really going to help really speed up the idea of that this is really where you want the players to go.
Oh yeah, it's easier to, when you've got a grasp on your skills, it's easier to sort of navigate the sessions in a way that you want to.
Right. And so we obviously, this is how we've been dealing with it, but we kind of wanted to see what the community thought in terms of what were some of their worst nonverbal or verbal kind of things that a DM could say that would really kind of mess their game up. And so we had a simple question. What is the worst thing a DM can say during a game?
Yep.
The first was, are you sure?
Yep.
What is your AC? You don't see anything. The DM just starts randomly rolling dice. And what is your passive perception?
Oh my, those are all kind of...
And so what did we end up finding out as we looked at all that?
It was a little split. We did have a winner. Are you sure was the definite winner.
Yeah.
But a close second was just randomly rolling dice, the sound of rolling dice.
Right, and I think that really kind of shows, like we were saying, is that it really comes down to both.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of like team combo that really, not only as a DM really affects your players, but also as a player, things to be aware of what to both look for and to kind of avoid looking for.
Yeah.
You know, if your DM's obviously answering a cell phone, you know, you don't want to sit there and go, oh, that's what the NPC, the bard maid, is thinking. It's like, well, no, give him a moment. He needs to get back into the scene.
Yeah.
But really, it was kind of interesting to see that really there was that split.
That was fun.
That no one really could just settle on one particular question or one particular action.
The thought of something being said or something being done, both of those thoughts were equally horrifying to the players, I guess.
I mean, I also had one player that mentioned to me, you know, about essentially like their DM was just kind of describing the kind of roadway and was trying to make like a squeaky noise, you know, and they were making a creak, and they were just literally just trying to like amplify the scene.
Yeah.
But the players assumed that there was something causing the squeak, kind of like that, like there's like a gremlin on the wing.
Yeah.
And so they like halted what they were doing. They stopped everything and they picked the cart apart. But the DM was so worried because they didn't want to say, you know, oh, I'm just trying to, you know, I made a dumb sound and you guys took it the wrong way.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to make it like,
squeak.
You know, I'm trying to make sound effects and you took it like something was breaking and dying. My bad. You know, and so it really just kind of shows that like you got to be careful, but you also got to give some slack to your DMs out there, and that sometimes we're trying something new and it might not be something that we're trying to make important. We're just trying something new. We're trying to shop it out.
Roll with us, baby.
But obviously, if you ever want to take part or ask any of the questions yourself, please join us on our Couple of Nerds Discord.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. We're constantly posting our questions on there, polls. You also get the chance to talk to all of us if you'd like.
Right, and so that's kind of also the best place because not only do we have our questions and polls, all of our photographs, also you can get connected and stream with us and kind of see all the different art, games, and all the other kind of like wacky antics we get in on the Discord.
Super fun.
But really what I think, looking at the community and looking at kind of what we've experienced, we've really kind of come to that understanding of that there is this kind of vital combination that you need to have between verbal and nonverbal.
Yeah, it's very clear that you need to have both.
Yeah, and not only that, but we've found some tips that have worked over these years, and not only as a DM but as a player, and we've tried to shop some, and we found that some work and some don't. And like for me, you know, obviously getting rid of a lot of distractions. You know, one thing that we have on our table is kind of a very limited phone rule. We've actually gone so far as like we use paper, you know, player sheets and everything, so that way no one's really on a laptop or a computer, because you can be reading something or doing something on a computer to the outside world and suddenly show a nonverbal or react to something that could break a mood or a tension point because your phone happens to go off.
Yeah, this is why we have, you know, they have them on silent. And we also have binders for everybody, which includes a notebook, includes all of their stuff, like their character sheet, so that they don't have to go to their phone. They don't have to reach for that. Yeah,
and that really is like a good start in the right direction to kind of make sure everyone's like on a clean slate, non-verbally and verbally.
Just because it's easier when you have a phone to just kind of lose yourself in that if you're not careful.
You know, and one kind of technique I had read about and had seen and been kind of interested in sharing on my own table is kind of a dice penalty system, and it kind of combines all these factors, and what it is essentially it's like a pool that you just kind of add a D4 to. And what the D4 is a response to is, you know, when the players act up a little, or you know there's a lot of crosstalk and the DM can't be heard, or there's a lot of metagaming, you just kind of quietly add a dice to it. You well, when I say quietly, you at least let them know that there's this kind of, you even leave it in front of them, so they can kind of see this dice collecting. And what that is that's just this pool now for the next person to get a natural 20. All of that, or a natural 1, excuse me, not a natural 20. All of that extra dice damage will then be applied to them as psychic damage, making it worrisome of essentially failing any roll. Now, obviously, I see some pros and cons, and that there are kind of, you never really want to do something that dissuades the character players from doing things. But I like the idea of like the combination that's there, right? It's this kind of like looming like, oh no, we're in trouble. We did something bad. And you're seeing it, right? You're seeing it, you're hearing it, and you kind of explain to the players like, hey, we got to keep it down. This is how we experience things. And I know that we love it and we get rowdy, but just like in a bar, everyone's got to have an opportunity to talk. And if we all rabble, no one can hear.
And everybody gets drowned out.
Right. And so, it is kind of ways that you can try to find these, like, these both incentive and systems that kind of help. I thought it was a funny thing when I brought it up to you. I kind of was like, hey, what would you think? And it was, kind of the same thing,
Honestly, it sounds a little scary. all damage is scary, but I think I wouldn't mind trying it out. I think it might help keep everyone focused. We're pretty good as a table, I'd like to think, but sometimes
I got to get you guys to kind of calm down.
We all have our moments.
But not only we have like these kind of try to kind of create a penalty system, but another good tip that like I like to employ a lot is kind of the almost like the dramatic pause.
Yes.
and in the sense of like using it to capitalize a break.
Yeah.
I always, tend to do it where it's like the aftermath of battle and the party is extremely wounded. Everyone's on the edge of death. And instead of allowing the party to start like healing, you stop right there.
Yeah.
you stop right there. You go, okay, everyone walk away from the table. No one look at their help.
Let's get snacks.
Because now during that time, they're in the moment even more. Like, oh man, they're like in the ER waiting room for the baby being delivered. It's like, oh man, what could go wrong? Like, what if I don't make it in time? I only have 6 seconds to get there. What could happen? And it really drives up the suspense. And it's really just something as simple as saying, hey, everyone go take a breather, walk away, and let's come back and take a look once again.
And that's happened a few times in our campaigns where we've been pretty close. Or one time, one of us was completely down, and we had to do a revivify, and you took us right to break.
Yeah, there's moments like that. You could even do it in moments of like success or failure. There's been a lot of times where okay, you got to lockpick this door. Okay, you roll. We'll get you the result. It's really the way to look at it. It's the commercial break.
Yep.
It's just like, you leave them hanging with that little breadcrumb because they're just going to be wanting to come back and listen to it. But really what it comes down to too is that it's not, I speak a lot from being a dungeon master, but obviously there are a lot of tricks that you as a professional player have kind of learned and gotten accustomed to that you've adapted. What are some that you would like to share?
So, it's really fun because D&D it gives you a lot of different skills, and one of those is like it helps with your acting a little bit because you're immersed in your character. And one of the things I love to do is to hide in plain sight. In my last campaign, I was really I had the luck of being possessed. I know that sounds weird, but it was super fun because I got to act like a possessed person with a completely different personality, and I had to conceal who I was for as long as I could. And I did it for quite a long time. It took a while for the table to figure out that I was not me. And I used nonverbals both to keep them in the dark and to give them clues that I was possessed. So I changed my accent. It became more English than Irish. I was able to employ more mannerisms with my body. So my character Brenna was a big kind of more burly person. She was very uncouth, so to speak. It
was cool.
Yeah, she was kind of burly. She didn't have very good manners because she lived in the wild, and it was she was a crazy girl. But when I got possessed, I was possessed by a spirit who was very prim and proper, loved things like tea.
She was like because she was like high society researcher.
Yep. So it was interesting when I adopted those mannerisms and started acting more hoity-toity and talking down to people as if they were, little people.
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of crazy too, because by the way you were doing it and like kind of the kind of turmoil you were creating, you were leading some of the players and their characters into like some pretty grave instances of almost dying, and they're kind of looking. And it was kind of funny because I think there were moments where outside of game, they're just kind of being like, to you, they're like, hey,
what are you
wait,
doing?
what's going on? Like, and you're just kind of really keeping it aloof. And so because you're keeping it at the table so aloof, in the game, they're even more confused and trying to scramble to figure out what exactly is going on to their favorite friend.
And I might have done too good of a job, because I think the con went on so long that they started really just like believing that was my personality from now on.
Yeah, it was like, oh, that was her plan. This is a really important place to her, and her character is just broken at this point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think that really just adds that layer of mystery that you can create as a player at the table.
Absolutely.
I mean, we called to plenty of times where we had an incident with Caladrax in our first campaign, and the player had this grand reveal and flipped a coin to see what their reaction would be. And man, they blew up. They went crazy angry, reached in deep. And I remember as the DM, I legitimately for a second thought the other players had actually insulted this man at the table.
He was actually upset.
And that he was very much upset. And I was getting ready to like stop the game.
He was that good,
figuring out what's going on until we realized it was just him getting in. And man, it made everyone focus. It drove that scene home. And I think will always be remembered because of how powerful that expression was.
Oh yeah, like when I got revealed that I was possessed, it was the same thing. It was like, oh my gosh, I suspected, but I didn't know. It was so like in between. So
and really, it's about creating, and it sounds bad, that suspense and that fear.
Oh yeah,
because you really want to kind of balance that, and it's tough too, because at the end of the day, we're all just people sitting around a table. We all know we're not dwarves and elves and dragons and stuff. So we really have to suspend a little bit of our natural beliefs. So you really want to fill it in with however you can, whether it's through aromatics, whether it's through food, it's through sounds and sights. But you can really do it in any way. We're in an apartment, so we really have to find
alternative ways,
small ways. We can't have a giant sound system and
or
smoke
a big fog
and
machine.
I want it. I want it
so
bad. We have to have a collapsible table that we can pull out and put up. So we really have to find ways. And if it's something as simple as the way you sit in your chair, or the kind of mannerisms you express, or the sudden pauses you take. So I had to get you. It really kind of changes that kind of essence of the game. And instead of just being a bunch of friends sitting around a table, everyone really starts kind of letting their imagination grow. And I feel like if you can kind of, as a DM, if you can trick them a little bit, if you can trick your players in for a brief moment believing, I think you prove it to them that the whole time that they can do it. They can believe
all the time.
And so that's really that first step as a DM of getting them really to kind of let loose, and that if you can trick them into believing you, then you got them.
Yeah, that's the beauty and the draw of D&D, is that you can believe what's happening for a second there. You're actually living it.
It just makes me want to do Naruto. Believe it!
Yeah. But today we explored how nonverbal cues and simple phrases can shape the dynamics at the game table. We, discussed how those nonverbal communication points can impact the table, as well as how words can impact the table, especially coming from the DM.
And we looked at some of the tips, some of the things that we've learned, we've heard, and we always would love to hear more, anything from anyone else out there as well, because like we said, that's what this whole community is about, is learning through trial and error and sharing our experiences. And this is just another avenue that we get to share a little bit of our experience with everybody else.
Absolutely. So review, leave a comment, subscribe to the podcast. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you, especially on the Couple of Nerds Discord, because that's where all of our interactive discussions, special polls go out, and you can contribute to future episodes on it as well.
And keep an eye on us on YouTube at Couple of Nerds Productions. We're going to have some cool new stuff coming up later in the month. So I'm hoping that everyone will be excited to see what we have coming out in July.
Absolutely. So we're getting ready to show you. Thank you so much, and have yourselves a good night.
Have a good one, everyone.
And that concludes today's journey through the realm of Couple of Nerds. We hope you had a blast exploring the intricate world of Extraeus. Don't miss out on the visual extravaganza over at our YouTube page at Couple of Nerds Podcast. It's where the magic comes to life with exclusive video segments, art previews, and a peek behind the curtain.
Dive deeper into our adventures by visiting DnDWifeStories.com, your haven for all our podcast transcripts and a treasure trove of content dedicated to the captivating universe of Extraeus.
Your unwavering support is our greatest treasure. Take a moment to weave your thoughts into a review and hit that subscribe button for an enchanting journey with Couple of Nerds.
Join us beyond the podcast in the Extraeus Project Discord. Connect with us, the creators, and even the travelers themselves. Witness the magic unfold in live drawing streams, game alongside us, and step into our digital tavern, the Bard's Haven. Share your stories and characters with fellow adventurers. Visit DnDWifeStories.com for the link to join our vibrant community.
Stay tuned for more tales, more laughs, and more insight into the world of tabletop gaming. Until then, may your dice be kind, your campaigns epic, and your adventures legendary.